evening, but skies will clear overnight. Temperatures will drop a little, but it will stay a frost-free night. The winds are going to continue to feed in from the North Sea overnight, and it'll remain quite cool around coastal parts of the northeast with some clear spells. The far northeast of Scotland will remain cloudy and murky this evening. Elsewhere, there'll be largely clear skies, leading to a touch of frost in the most prone spots overnight. There will also be largely clear skies for Northern Ireland as we end the day and go through the night. The odd pocket of mist and fog is possible. Whilst it will be a fine night, increasingly clear for many, we will notice the odd showery rain in the far south, and that is how the weather is shaping up overnight and into tomorrow morning.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next 2 hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics that are hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's comedian Leo Kearse, and also former Labour advisor Scarlett Maguire. Before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 1 minute past 4. I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. Russia has resumed its attack on the last Ukrainian defenders holed up in a giant steel plant in Mariupol, hitting it with air and ground attacks. Footage from the Ukrainian Nationalist Azov battalion appears to show women and children holding out in the underground bunkers of the Azovstal plant. Ukrainian authorities say more than 1,000 civilians are there with the troops. Evacuations were expected to start at midday from the city, but an aide to Mariupol's mayor says this did not take place. Alice Jefferson from disaster relief charity Shelterbox says humanitarian corridors are vitally important.
We understand now is that people are continually trapped in some of the sort of hardest, most violent areas, and there's few and far between options for them to either receive vital support or indeed sort of escape and get out through safe means. Humanitarian corridors in conflict are vitally important, and I think for us, what we really want to see is predictable, assured, safe passage for civilians.
A Conservative MP is calling for a police probe into footage which appears to show Sir Keir Starmer drinking beer with colleagues in April last year when indoor mixing was banned. The Labour leader was cleared of breaching lockdown rules by Durham police in February. However, Richard Holden believes this should be reviewed in the wake of Boris Johnson's fixed penalty notice. A man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a body was found in a hospital car park. The body of a 56-year-old man was discovered inside a car outside the Good Hope Hospital near Birmingham on Friday. West Midlands Police confirmed that a 43-year-old man has been arrested. The car has been removed for forensic examination. UK supermarkets have placed limits on how much cooking oil people can buy due to supply chain problems caused by the war in Ukraine. Tesco is limiting each customer to a maximum of 3 bottles, whilst Iceland is rationing sunflower oil to 1 bottle per person. Most of the UK's sunflower oil comes from Ukraine. The British Retail Consortium said that the move was a temporary measure. The price of oils and fats is almost 25% more expensive than a year ago. Polls are predicting incumbent President Emmanuel Macron could reach over half of the vote cast in France's election tomorrow. Despite that, President Macron has admitted it feels like a failure that his rival, Marine Le Pen, is set to reach a higher turnout than she did in 2017. French journalist Laura Haim told GBNews many voters are disillusioned by political parties in the country.
The far right and the Le Pen party is really high at this moment, close to 50%. So no matter what, there's a real division in the French society like never before.
Scotland's Minister for Europe says that changing the Northern Ireland Protocol is unthinkable. Neil Gray has written to the Foreign Secretary calling for urgent talks on reports that ministers are planning legislation to scrap the post-Brexit trading agreement with the European Union. Yesterday, when the Prime Minister was asked whether the UK would suspend aspects of the protocol, he said he could not rule out taking further steps. Treatment for an overactive bladder could be made available at the pharmacy for the first time. The government is calling on millions of women with the condition to take part in a consultation. It could lead to the medicine Akua, used to treat those with milder symptoms, being reclassified so it can be bought over the counter without a prescription. Japan's Coast Guard is searching for a tour boat that went missing with 26 people, including 2 children, on board. The boat reported it was sinking off the northern island of Hokkaido and has not been seen since. Japanese media reports that Coast Guards have dispatched 5 patrol boats and 2 aircraft are also taking part in the search. The Earl and Countess of Wessex have continued onto the second leg of their 7-day tour of the Caribbean. They received their second red carpet and Guard of Honour welcome after landing in St Vincent and the Grenadines, as scouts, Girl Guides and cadets waved the national flag. The couple received a warm welcome despite a previous warning from Antigua to avoid phony sanctimony over slavery. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's return to Nana.
So it's fast approaching 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Right, I've got a test for you. What day is it today? If you looked around, scratched your head and were somewhat confused, let's try another question. When is St Patrick's Day? Very good, March the 17th. I see you know the answer to that one, right? A day off and a load of boozing and lots of green signifying the Irish National Day. What about St David's Day? When's that? It's March the 1st. And St Andrew's? 30th of November. But you didn't know that St Andrew, he's the patron saint of Scotland, is also the patron saint of Romania, Greece, Russia, Ukraine and Poland. And the Scottish get a day off for that as well. OK, so what about St George's Day? When is that? Well, most people first get him confused with St David and still couldn't tell you when the day is. Well, it's actually today, the 23rd of April, and not a lot of people know that. Instead of drapesing the flag of St George from balconies and flying it high in the town centres across England, for some reason or other, no one seems to want to talk about it, let alone celebrate it. Both the Irish and the Scottish have bank holidays when their national day arrives, but as soon as St George's Day is here, it seems as though a certain sector of the population want to sweep this day under the carpet and deem anybody who dares to celebrate it a racist. Look, I get it. When I was growing up, the flag of St George was commandeered by some racist elements who used it as a sign of their racist agenda, which is ironic, really, because St George, if he existed, was actually an immigrant and from Turkey. But the flag has since that time been reclaimed. There seems to be a woke liberal elite of very unpatriotic people who see anybody who supports the idea of this day as a celebration, and they hold the flag of St George in contempt. But England actually have a lot to be proud of, and the notion of being English needs to be celebrated. In 1215, England set up the Magna Carta, which laid the foundation of why every person should be free under the law, innocent until proven guilty. In the 16th century, England asserted its independence in a statute and shook off foreign legal controls, a bit like Brexit. And this was the same century that England defeated the Spanish Armada. As part of the Union, we beat France and Spain at Trafalgar, abolished slavery and created equal rights for women. Literary geniuses like George Orwell, William Shakespeare, whose birthday is also today, are considered some of the best authors to have ever lived. Their work studied globally, and the English language was until recently the most prevalent language spoken throughout the world. We've won 1 World Cup, 2 World Wars, and have some of the best pubs in the world. So why on earth is the 23rd April, St George's Day, hardly ever mentioned? With a history like this, surely we should stay true to the struggles of our ancestors who fashioned a free people and fought to keep us free. I'm proud to be English. So before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. After a report found shortcomings in the way children are treated for gender identity problems, Sajid Javid is reportedly set to launch a review into gender treatment for minors, as he believes that the current system is failing children. I'll be asking, should children be offered hormone therapy to change gender? And at 5 in my difficult conversation, after Manchester United's Cristiano Ronaldo bravely stepped out on the pitch today after losing his newborn son, I'll meet with an inspiring man to discuss how to cope with baby loss. Ross Coniam lost his daughter in 2018, and since then he's taken on a range of challenges to raise money for charities that support people who have lost babies. Every parent's worst nightmare. And in our Royal Roundup, I'll be joined by the Editor-in-Chief of Majesty magazine, Ingrid Seward, to discuss the photos released by Buckingham Palace of Prince Louis on his 4th birthday. That's coming up in the next hour. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. You can email gbviews@gbnews.uk or send me a tweet @gbnews. And also former Labour advisor Scarlett Maguire. Right, first I want to discuss the story I was discussing. Not on me anymore, thank you. Right, sorry about that. I mean, anyway, so let's take a look at it. St George's Day, Scarlett, did you know it's St George's Day today?
I didn't know until I got your email, I must admit. But actually, I'm pretty bad on St Patrick's Day, and I do have Irish ancestry. And the only reason I vaguely know St David's is because March the 1st is quite an easy day. No, never a clue about St Andrews. So I don't pick on them. And, you know, the thing about Englishness is I am Scots-Irish. I mean, I live in England. I was born in England. I choose to live in England. But actually, I think I'd probably say I was British, unless you're not allowed. I do support the English football team.
Well, yeah, I'd say I'm British, but if we are to divide it up the way, you know, obviously the different parts of the Union, then, you know, technically, I'm a Geordie. I was born in Newcastle, so I'm English. What about you, Leo? What do you think about it?
Patagonian, but unfortunately I've never been there. But my parents are English. I was born in Scotland, got the accent, And now I live in London. So, yeah, I guess I consider myself to be British. But yeah, St. George's Day, it's funny. Like, British people, or English people specifically, aren't allowed to display any patriotism. Any patriotism in English people at all is just stamped on. Remember Emily Thornberry, Labour MP? She tweeted. Some guy had, like, you know, a St. George's cross in his van, and she was like, oh, look at this disgusting pig.
Can I say that picture was taken completely out of context? She'd been tweeting all day pictures of places she was going to, and they picked up on that one. When it comes,
she still said
she
sneered at the British working people.
I mean, the one
she still did
she
that.
Didn't. She's had a lot. No, but if we look at the St George's,
nobody ever looks at Jimmy Savile's charity work.
No, hang on a minute. Sorry, we'll take that back. Let's not talk about Jimmy Savile. Not in this arena.
I really don't want to talk about Jimmy Savile. If we talk about St George's, I mean, you know, whenever England are playing, I mean, what's so lovely about the St George's flag is, you know, all around London you'll have cars with St George's flags going rah rah. And they might be white, and they might be brown, and they might be black people. Everybody in London supports England football. I mean, you know, my daughter, who you would accuse of being woke about everything, was literally in tears when we lost the European Cup. I mean, she's...
She didn't expect it? Sorry.
Come on, we lost on penalties. We could have won.
No, well, we could have, but we never win. We never win. We always lose on penalties when we are there. We just can't handle the crunch at the end, can we? It's really sad.
But what I'm saying
they are paid a lot of money and they need to win.
Is that all this thing about us not supporting England, actually, when it really comes to it, something like football, we're out there.
But we do support England, but we don't celebrate England. So, yeah, I agree. When, you know, if there's an English rugby match or any of those things, and yes, the supporters will come out in force. Yes, but that's the irony of it, that when St George's Day arrives, most people don't realise it at all.
Yeah, I see more English people with Ukrainian flags in their Twitter bios than St George's Cross. And I think Ukraine is a great inspiration to us right now. You can see they're being very nationalistic. They're trying to stop Russia coming over the border. I know some Guardian readers might see that as anti-immigration, but, you know, I think in that context, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay to stop.
Let's not upset the Guardian readers now, because they might not see it like that at all.
But also...
No, I think most of them absolutely 100% support Ukraine, as you would see if you read the Guardian.
Maybe I'm joking.
Is this another one of his very bad jokes?
Maybe.
Here we go.
Oh, come to England. Come everyone.
No, it doesn't mention it, actually.
Pre-medieval society.
Yeah,
I'm sure once you arrive here, you'll be a perfect Western.
He's just making that
Westernised
up.
liberal.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, no, seriously. No, but honestly, why is it, though, that if you look at it, I was hoping to see at least one flag of St George. I haven't seen one of them at all. I know years ago there was that sort of racist element that managed to commandeer it.
I do think that was a problem, actually.
Well, that was a problem at the time,
you know, when I started in journalism, we had the British National Party, but possibly it was even something before then.
The
National Front, I mean, who commandeered the flag and then said, you know, anybody who isn't white, basically, not who wasn't born here, should go back.
Well, why were they even allowed? But Scarlett, see, the thing is, why were they even allowed to do that with the flag? I mean, that's like you're desecrating the flag.
You shouldn't be allowed on the flag.
No, but you shouldn't be allowed to put that identity of the flag on your brand if that is your brand. That should not be allowed. I mean, you know, simply shouldn't be allowed. It's a national treasure. The flag of St George should be a national treasure ultimately, and any group shouldn't be able to commandeer it as their own.
You will now find that whatever, I've forgotten this right-wing thing called Something Action will have that flag. I mean, you know, that is a problem. But as I say, it's so lovely when there's a football tournament or anything like that, and up go the English flags.
I think it's when people confuse patriotism with racism, and then they do that with the flag. But we're not stupid, so we all know that the flag of St George, I think it should be celebrated.
Okay.
Well, did you know?
It's interesting you talk about the British National Party, because in Scotland we've got the Scottish National Party, and everybody seems to think, everybody on the left, all the Guardian readers seem to think this is wonderful, like standing up against the evil of the British Empire, and it is just as xenophobic and mean-minded and racist as the British National Party.
Well, in your opinion, some people might not say that. Some people might say that it's actually representing the people of Scotland and not actually...
actually, there are a lot of Scots
who are
on the left and the right who would... I mean, I I know a lot of... Hold on,
Sorry, Scott, I'll do that. I'll do that,
English
Scarlett.
people tell me what Scots
Leo,
think.
let Scarlett finish, sorry.
I know a lot of very left-wing Scots who are pro-union who would rather vote Conservative than SNP. So it is more complicated than
Really? They'd rather vote Conservative than SNP?
Yeah, because they're pro-union. They think the most important thing is a united kingdom, right, not Scottish independence.
Interesting that you say they simply won't vote Labour then. Isn't that what you've just said?
No, I say... come on, there are places that the Conservatives are going to win, and if they'd rather the Conservatives won than the SNP.
Did the Labour government get any seats in Scotland at all in the election?
Yeah, they did.
How many?
They have one, and I'm sure they'll have a lot more under Keir.
Sorry, and on that
I will come in here after the general election, and both you two can eat.
Is that the same guy who said that he couldn't say the word woman?
He doesn't know what a woman is.
He couldn't define it, could he?
He does know what a woman is.
Well, he doesn't. He wouldn't say.
What is a woman? A woman is an adult female and a trans person. And a trans woman is a woman. The big thing is...
a trans woman is a trans woman.
A trans woman is a woman.
Is a trans woman. It's not a biological woman.
Is a woman.
No, a trans woman is... Well, what's a trans woman?
Somebody who has transitioned from male to female is a woman. That's what I'm saying.
OK.
Well, we'll be talking about... transition to female because that's a biological... That's your chromosomes.
I mean, actually...
Transition being a woman, you can change your gender, but you can't change your biological sex.
So you're
OK, listen, and
it is much more complicated than you think, as I have been.
Yeah, whatever.
Hang on, biology. Right?
Are you really?
He says
Scarlett,
it's not binary.
Scarlett. OK, we'll stop there. But biology is biology, and most scientists would say that biology is biology, and you can't change what biology.
No, most scientists would not say that.
No, they would. Actually. No, they would, Scarlett. But I'm going to move on.
I'm going to move on,
Scarlett.
But I really don't want to discuss it.
Well, we'll see if we can find some that will, but I think we'll struggle. Right. Anyway. So keep your thoughts coming. We'll be discussing actually sex and biology later on in the show at around about just after 5:30. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, it's time for our Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should children be offered hormone therapy to change gender? After a report has found shortcomings in the way children are treated for gender identity problems, Health Secretary Sajid Javid is set to launch a review into gender treatment for minors, as he believes that the current system is failing children. Send us your thoughts. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk. Tell us what you think. You can also send us a tweet at GBNews. And there is a poll up right now asking that very question. Should trans children be offered hormone therapy? Cast your vote. But first, let's get some weather.
Looking ahead to this evening's weather, and the UK is looking fine and clear in the north, with showers in the southwest clearing away. Let's take a look at the details. Showers will have cleared much of the southwest by 7 p.m, but still a few lingering around coastal parts of Cornwall. Further showery rain is expected later in the night. In London, it will be largely cloudy to end the day, but it should stay largely dry. South coastal parts will see some showers overnight. Any lingering showers across South Wales will clear away this evening, so it's going to be a dry night but blustery at times. It's a similar picture across the West Midlands. It'll be cloudy through the evening, but skies will clear overnight. Temperatures will drop a little, but it will stay a frost-free night. The winds are going to continue to feed in from the North Sea overnight, and it'll remain quite cool around coastal parts of the northeast with some clear spells. The far northeast of Scotland will remain cloudy and murky this evening. Elsewhere, there'll be largely clear skies, leading to a touch of frost in the most prone spots overnight. There will also be largely clear skies for Northern Ireland as we end the day and go through the night. The odd pocket of mist and fog is possible. Whilst it will be a fine night, increasingly clear for many, we will notice the odd showery rain in the far south, and that is how the weather is shaping up overnight and into tomorrow morning.
Join us every Sunday at 10 a.m. for The Political Correction.
We're here to put you, the people, back in charge. Our debate is about all areas of the United Kingdom.
It's about what's really going on in our country.
It's about you. So please get in touch and tell us what you think.
Don't miss it. It's The Political Correction every Sunday at 10 a.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, And I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Co.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good afternoon, 24 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, before the break, we were discussing, are the English patriotic enough? And let's see what you've been saying. Steve says, hi, Nana. I couldn't agree more about St George's Day. We've had it shoved down our throats for donkey's years by the left that anybody who loves England is racist. Tommy says, I think most people are proud of our country and support St George's Day. Yeah, you'd think so, Tommy, but it doesn't look like anybody's really saying much about it. I mean, are there any flags of St George near your place? I mean, there's no... I didn't see any at all on my way in. Owen says, happy St George's Day to you all. Great set of people beside you. I know it's going to be a great show and witty, intelligent as always. Thank you very much. Ian says, of course St George's Day should be celebrated. Here in Scotland, however, if you celebrate St Andrew's Day, you are assumed to be an SNP supporter, as they've taken our flag and national dress as their own. Penelope says, I love St George's Day. We should get a bank holiday weekend for it. Yeah, I agree. Should be a bank holiday, shouldn't it? I mean, I'd still be working, but it'd be nice, wouldn't it? Right, OK, well, keep your thoughts coming. It's time now for our Great British Debate. And I'm asking, should kids be offered hormone therapy to change gender? Sajid Javid is set to launch a review into gender treatment for minors, as he believes that the current system is failing children. Now, a recent interim report by the former president, Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, found that shortcomings in the way children are treated for gender identity problems. The Health Secretary believes that vulnerable children are wrongly being given gender hormone treatment and says that the discussion of the topic is too toxic. So that's why we're discussing it today. So for our Great British Debate, I'm asking, should kids be offered hormone therapy to change gender? I'm joined in the studio by transgender teacher and journalist Debbie Hayton. Debbie, thank you so much for joining me. First of all, we were having an argument there and we were discussing whether a transgender woman is a woman. What's your view?
No, we're not.
No, that's what I said. Now, you speak to Scarlett about that.
I'll talk to Scarlett later.
I mean, you're a trans woman. You should be proud of that. Why, own it. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So on this question then, so in your view, what was Sajid Javid actually saying?
Well, I think he's absolutely right to say what he said. Children have been let down and children have been put at risk of great harm by this. Children with a number of different possible psychological conditions, we don't really know, have been signed up to this view that they are somehow transgender, they're identifying as transgender, and they're seeing this as an elixir to all sorts of problems.
And the worry is that they're doing it so soon, aren't they? So what are the risks for you? When did you decide to sort of transition? And, kind of what age were you? And when you were younger, so say before your 20s, Where were you in your thinking in terms of your own gender identity?
Well, I'd always struggled with gender, and whatever we want to call it. It was something that I'd struggled with, but it's something I could live with because we couldn't do anything about it. So if you can't do anything about it, then you may as well go and find other things to do, climb trees, etc., 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 which characterised my childhood. I transitioned when I was 44. When I found out that other people were transitioning, and I could too, and that drove a compulsion in me to do this. But by that time, I'd already had all the children I was going to have. I'd already been sterilised, and had to answer all sorts of questions when I did that, to say, do I want any more children? Are you sure you don't want any more children? But here we're coming to children who haven't yet reached puberty and saying to them, you can make this decision now, when, you know, they cannot give consent at that age for something which involves very much an understanding what it means to be an adult while they're still children. And this is what's been happening. And Sajid Javid is absolutely right to call this out.
What do you think is driving this particular agenda? Because I, for one, can't work it out why this would be as a priority in terms of these gender clinics and the government and the schools, some schools backing this idea that children can decide what gender they are and all. What do you think is actually driving this?
Well, it's bizarre, isn't it? You know, we've got issues that children have always struggled with identity and growing up and puberty and adolescence. And suddenly we're saying, look, you can be the other sex. But they can't, but we're telling children that. So what actually is going on here? And is it an attempt to separate us from our physical bodies? Because there is that. People do spend a lot of time online. People do spend time sat in front of a screen when they are separated from their physical bodies. And here's an opportunity to say to people, look, you can separate yourself from the sex that you really are and be the sex that you'd like to be. And whether those sort of ideas on wanting to basically pull us out of our physical presence is what's driving this. I don't know, but something bizarre is going on. But the important point is that children are being harmed by it, and that's something we should address.
And if you do go through this process, and I mean, the other couple of weeks ago, I mean, it was detransition day for people who've been through the process, and as they've got older, realise that this is not what they want to do. And a lot of people are going and starting this treatment, and then later on realising I don't want to do this. Is there any way of bringing yourself back to your original gender if you then decide that you...
Well, people have talked to me about this, because I look back at what I did 10 years ago and I think, well, what was all that about, really? As I said, it was driven by this compulsion. This was something I really needed to do. I look back now and I think, did I really need to do that?
Yeah.
What has actually happened here? I don't claim to be any sort of woman anymore. I did. I thought it was some sort of woman when I transitioned. I'm not a woman now. So, you know, what would it mean to detransition, as it were? Well, the problem is that my body's changed quite a bit, and it would be impossible to recreate where I've gone to, and I don't want any more surgery. I don't want any more...
So did you actually go the full way and do all the surgery as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then in your mind, is there anywhere where you regret it? Because you said you think about it and you think...
I don't regret... At the time, my mental health was in such... This compulsion was driving... I was so driven by this compulsion, my mental health was in a mess. And transitioning certainly addressed those problems at the time. So I don't regret putting myself in a position where my mental health improved. What I regret was being in the situation where I felt I had to do it, and certainly the impact on my family was just enormous at the time, and it was something I didn't really appreciate. All I was interested in was myself.
So what would you say would be the thing to do for children who are going through the dilemma and the gender identity? How should they be treated instead of given these hormones?
Well, we shouldn't be telling children they've got a choice about which sex they want to grow up as, because that's effectively what we're saying to them. We're saying, look, there is this treatment that means that you can choose to grow up to be a man or a woman. You can't. But that's what we're telling children. Now, not all the children who are referred to the Tavistock actually have this treatment. Not all children will be referred to the Tavistock because there's an enormous waiting list. But for those who are not, what we're telling those children is there is this treatment that would actually sort out all your problems, but you can't have it because other people won't let you. Now, what are we doing to those children's mental health, their actual psychological development? This is the scandal that we should be talking about, and say to children, look, we shouldn't be telling children lies. Instead, we should be saying, well, you know, be the person you want to be. If If as a girl you want to climb trees, and do that. And if you're a boy and wants to wear dresses, do that. But what we shouldn't be saying to children is, if you're a boy who wants to wear dresses, that might mean you're a girl. That's what we should not be doing.
Well, listen, Debbie, it's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience as well. That's Debbie Hayton. She's a teacher and a transgender campaigner. Well, let's have a look at what you've been saying. Elliot says, of course not. Adults should have the right to do what they want with their body, but no child is capable of understanding the full ramifications of what they're being offered, nor is most of it reversible. Fraser says a child is not capable of understanding the long-term implications of major decisions. That's why we don't allow children to drink or smoke. Irene says, I think it's parents who need therapy for even considering putting their children through it. Well, keep your thoughts coming. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GBNews on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, we'll continue with the Great British Debate. I'm asking, should kids be offered hormone therapy to change their gender? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, comedian Leo Kearse and also former Labour advisor Scarlett Maguire. First, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thanks, Nana. It's 4:33. I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. President Zelensky has spoken with Boris Johnson about Ukraine's need for a new phase of military aid, which includes the provision of heavy weapons. It comes as Russia resumed its attack on the last Ukrainian defenders holed up in a giant steelworks in Mariupol, hitting it with air and ground attacks. Footage from the Ukrainian nationalist Azov battalion appears to show women and children holding out in the underground bunkers of the Azovstal plant. 1,000 civilians are believed to be sheltering with the troops. A man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a body was found in a hospital car park. The body was discovered inside a car outside the Good Hope Hospital near Birmingham on Friday. The car has been removed for forensic examination. A Conservative MP is urging Durham Police to review its decision not to fine Sir Keir Starmer. That's after footage appeared to show him drinking with colleagues in April 2021 when indoor mixing was banned. Sir Keir was cleared of breaching lockdown rules by Durham Police in February, but Richard Holden believes that decision should be reviewed in the wake of Boris Johnson receiving a fixed penalty notice. Campaigning has ended in the French presidential elections ahead of polls opening tomorrow. Pollsters say the race is very close, with incumbent President Emmanuel Macron expected to reach just over half of votes cast. The Earl of and Countess of Wessex have continued on to the second leg of their Caribbean tour. They've landed in St Vincent and the Grenadines. The couple received a warm welcome despite a previous warning from Antigua to avoid so-called phony sanctimony over slavery. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now let's get back to Nana Akua.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's fast approaching 38 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Right, now let's get back to our great British debate this hour. I'm asking, should kids be offered hormone therapy to change gender? Shadi Javid is said to launch a review into gender treatment for minors, as he believes that the current system is failing children. A recent interim report by the former president of the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health found shortcomings in the way children are treated for gender identity problems. The Health Secretary believes vulnerable children are wrongly being given gender hormone treatment and says the discussion of the topic is too toxic. That's why we're discussing it. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should kids be offered hormone therapy? Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by comedian Leo Kearse and also former Labour advisor Scarlett Maguire. Right. So let's get it stuck in. Scarlett, just so you know, what we said, I asked Debbie very clearly, is a trans woman a woman? And she very clearly said no.
I know.
A trans woman is a trans woman and a woman is a woman. So
it is interesting that when she came out, she did talk about perception and said the fact that if you were sitting on a train, you'd point to her and say, that woman, rather than that tranny, and that does make a difference.
You wouldn't say that tranny because that's slightly offensive.
No, but if you were sitting on a train, you would say that woman.
But what we were saying was that they are different, and you were saying that they are the same. They are clearly not. All right, so Scarlett, what do you think then? Should children be offered hormone therapy to change gender?
I think in the vast majority of cases that children should be left to decide from day to day, from month to month, what gender they feel like. That I think that during, for the first 15, 18, 20 years of children's lives, that actually they're exploring their sexuality, they're exploring what they are. And the last thing you want is to start making changes that stay there. So what I'm saying is, you know, my daughter was a complete tomboy. My son said, when I grow up and I'm a girl. I mean, both of them, and most children I know, have lots of ways that they're feminine in some ways and masculine in others. And I think that they should just be allowed to develop. And sometimes people, you know, girls want to be boys and boys want to be girls. And that's completely and utterly natural. And it's only when you get to the extremes, when the serious body dysmorphia, should they start going for counselling, and then you think about it. But the whole problem of hormone therapy is it's irreversible.
Leo.
Yeah, I mean, as Scarlett said, it's irreversible. These hormones, when you put the puberty blockers in, the long-term changes can mean sterility, they can mean stunted growth, and all kinds of problems with osteoporosis and other health issues. So you really want to be holding off on this stuff. And I think at the moment the system and the schools, and particularly the sort of leftist ideologues who've infiltrated academia and teaching, they're almost grooming these children. My friend Nico, so he's got two girls, and he said there's a boy at his girls' school who was going through the dressing up box, you know, picked out a Spider-Man outfit, picked out a Batman outfit, and picked out a princess dress, and like put them all down. And the counsellor was straight over, being like, "Oh, did you want to wear the princess dress?" You know, starting the process of, you know, putting these ideas in the kids' heads, because you know, children are innocent and, you know, are vulnerable and easily guided by people. And you know, of course, if you make it fashionable and if you make it trendy for children to transition. At the moment, they've made it. You know, at the moment, if you look on TikTok and social media, younger Generation Z, are using cisgender as a pejorative. They're using it as an insult. So it's the cool thing to be genderqueer, to be non-binary, to be trans or whatever. And you can see it across the media. You know, it's celebrated everywhere in every institution. So we've made it the cool thing to be. So of course, kids are going to be like, "Oh yeah, no, I think I'm non-binary. I think I'm genderqueer. I think I'm trans." You know, I think we need to just calm down a little bit and just let people develop. develop.
Do you think that we should perhaps break down the walls of the stereotype of what is masculine and what is feminine? Because then if you sort of leave it open, then nobody really, you're not really affiliated with any particular gender identity.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is allowing the person to be who they are, irrespective of, what they might be physically. Then they can evolve into that thing and be comfortable about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know why leftist ideologues think that, being a man is this and being a woman is this, because it's never been like that. Being a man has always meant anything from Hulk Hogan to David Bowie.
Well, you can't multitask, let's be honest. I mean, don't push it. I mean,
I'll be liberal, but also I think this thing about left ideologues. I remember when the Ukraine war burst out, Amanda Platel, no left-wing ideologue, seriously right-wing in the Daily Mail, was going, thank goodness for masculinity, look at what the Ukrainian men are doing. Give me a break. I mean, I agree with you. I think there's a whole range. And I remember when my daughter became a complete tomboy, I was really insulted because I thought, well, I've obviously brought her up to not think that women are powerful, right? I mean, and you do wonder why that happens. But I mean, at her school, she wore dungarees for 4 years, and they thought that was fine. And a boy 2 years above her wore a skirt, right? And actually, they were just allowed to. And now, she wears dresses all the time, and he's a married barrister. I just think you just have to be, and I don't think it's adults telling the kids this is cool. I think that's what's cool in school at the moment.
What do you think? What do you think is going wrong, though? Because this whole mindset is infiltrating things. I mean, you've got you had Nicola Sturgeon saying that children should be able to, or the SNP saying that children should be able to decide on their gender when they're 4 and things like that. What do you think is going wrong? What's happening? But what do you think is happening?
I don't know whether Nicola Sturgeon.
Well, she was. Her party was suggesting.
Yeah.
No, they were.
It's crazy, right? But I think I just think we should be more relaxed about it, and we should be more relaxed about children discovering and their sexuality.
Agreed, but what do you think is going wrong, though? Why do you think there's this whole... Because it's definitely happening, even if you want to deny it,
it's by people who don't understand the children, who are then desperately trying to push them one way or another. But, I mean, I really don't think it's about left and right.
But how have they got so much...
There's not very many people on the right, saying to children, dressing them up in dresses and being like...
No, and there are a lot of people...
There's drag queen story hour.
Okay, and there are a lot of people on the right who are doing exactly the opposite and saying real men don't cry.
Leo, I'm going to ask you... No, hang on.
That's exactly right.
Wait, but that's slightly different. Listen, these are, they're sort of gender stereotypes, and I suppose that is one of the reasons why we're sort of getting a bit confused. But, Leo, I'll pose the same question to you. What do you think is actually going wrong then, and why this weird mentality is just infiltrating through schools and all sorts, and people seem to be accepting it and evolving it?
Well, we talk about systemic racism that's throughout institutions. It means that black people don't get a fair hand in life all the time. There's systemic wokeness.
Well, hang on, I don't agree with that systemic thing, by the way, so, just so you know.
Well, anyway... Systemic wokeness. All right, well, do you agree with this? There's systemic wokeness throughout all our institutions, throughout the media, through our culture, the cultural hegemony of wokeism. You can see it turn on any ad break, apart from GB News, any ad break is all, just trans children in the John Lewis advert and, everywhere, like police are painting rainbow flags and everything. You can't get them to turn up to a crime, but, oh, my God, they can't stop painting police cars rainbow colour.
Or taking the knee or bending down.
I'm desperately trying to think of the last ad I saw. I didn't see the... It was
John Lewis, wasn't it?
No, but this was Christmas, right? We're now at Easter. The last ad I saw that had trans people in it. There are a lot of ads now, unlike when I was a child, that have a lot of black people in them. I'll give you that. That advertising has moved on from the classic, mum, dad, white, and everybody nice. But I don't think it's very woke.
No, it absolutely is. There's a vast overrepresentation of transgender and non-binary and people with green hair and nose piercings in adverts right now. So, you can't argue. You can't deny that. Maybe adverts tend to be targeted now, so maybe I'm getting,
No, you said
adverts.
that. Name an advert then, sorry, because you've made a statement. I just want you to qualify.
The Virgin advert.
What happens
I saw this morning.
What happened?
It's got, just weird-looking people.
OK, I think he's qualified that pretty bad.
I can't even think what he's talking about.
Right now, a radical advert would be showing a nuclear family with a man and a woman and some children. You know what I mean? At the moment, you've got to be a transgender furry on roller skates to get an advert.
You haven't been watching a lot of television lately.
OK, well, listen, I've got to find out what people who are watching us think. So it's nothing without you guys. So let's welcome our great British voice. This is your opportunity to be on the show and tell us what you really think about the topics we're discussing. Today, let's head over to Lichfield to talk to Sue. Sue is the head teacher at Lichfield Cathedral School. Sue Hallam, welcome to the show. OK, Sue, what is your view on this then?
Wow, this is such a topic, isn't it? And again, I think this is a great topic for a great British debate. It's healthy we're having the debate. I think there are much wider issues here. I think we've got to listen to the fact that we're being told that the current system is failing. So whatever that is, it needs a greater degree of scrutiny. What we do know, and what I experience as a head teacher, and certainly what I know from my colleagues who are head teachers around the country, is that we've got a national problem with young people and mental health, and that's not being dealt with. There is just not the resource out there. Lots of schools are putting in professionals, mental health professionals, to support their pupils because the parents can't get the support elsewhere because the system is underfunded, under-resourced. This is a particular issue that I think if we are being told that the current system is failing, then we have got to listen and we have got to do something different. And I understand there's another report coming out later in the year, and we await with great interest what will be in that.
But surely, Sue, your view then is sort of a yes or no. Then should children be offered hormone therapy to change their gender? And bear in mind, this is children. Do you think that that's a...
I think children and parents should be offered all the support that's appropriate for the situation that they are in. And I think there's a much wider issue around this, that support is just not there in the way it should be.
But specifically hormone therapy, Sue, what do you think?
I think hormone therapy, again, I'm a head teacher, not some kind of medical person.
No, but just in your view.
I would defer to the expertise of somebody who knows what they're dealing with. And I think this is, you listen to the other people on your panel and they're talking about how these are decisions that are made that are irreversible in ways that will change children's lives. Clearly, none of these should be taken without appropriate professional guidance.
Well, Sue, listen, it's really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your views, as ever. That's Sue Hannam. She's there in Lichfield. Back to the panel. If you just joined me, I'm with Leo Kearse, and Scarlett Maguire. We're talking about gender therapy and whether children should be offered hormone therapy. So, in a word, Leo, what do you think? Yes or no, they should be?
No.
No.
No, wait until they're teenagers.
Really?
Yeah. Wait until the age of criminal responsibility is 10. So, and also, I wonder this is the thin end of a wedge. If leftist ideologues are saying, children can consent to transitioning at the age of 5, what else are they suggesting they can consent to? It's a slippery slope.
I don't think anybody in there at all is suggesting hormone therapy below the age of 10.
Yes, it's already been done.
I think that what Sue said actually is really important. Is I'm on the board of a small charity in a London borough that's called Open Door that is for mental health for kids. And we've got waiting lists that are months long, much, much better than the NHS. I have to say that we are free, much better. The NHS, trying to get help with mental health, as Sue said, in her school, trying to get help for people with mental health problems, that's much more important than whether you're doing hormone therapy or not. That is masses and masses of kids are having real mental health problems, and we're just leaving them to it, right? That's what we should be thinking about.
Well, I'm going to refer to what Debbie says, which is more that we are looking at this from an adult spectacle and from a child's view. They won't really understand gender at that age, and it's way too young. I think it's a nonsense to be doing that to children. It's, I would almost call it almost a form of abuse, right? But what do you think? I've been asking, should kids be offered hormone therapy to change gender? Lots of you have been getting in touch with your views, and George says, I think there are a million more important things that we should be focusing on. Absolutely.
Quite right. What about maths? Remember when schools taught maths?
Yeah, remember that. Definitely not, says Katie. They need time, and in my opinion, need to be an adult before any treatment is offered. Dusty says, stop obsessing over trans people. Well, we're not really, are we? It's just a question as to what to do with it. And actually, Debbie Hayton was there, and she felt that it was also not a good idea to be offering children hormone therapy. Ian says, why wasn't this a problem 30 years ago? Why are we allowing people to indoctrinate our kids that they are not what they are? Katie says, definitely not. They need time, and in my opinion, need to be an adult before treatment is offered. I think I've read that one already. Sarah says, I think they should be offered therapy if they are diagnosed with gender dysphoria. If people take hormone blockers at an early age, there's more chance of them feeling comfortable in their chosen gender as they get older. Well, keep your thoughts coming. There's a poll up at the moment as well throughout the show asking the very question whether children should be offered hormone therapy to change gender. And currently, guess what percentage said yes? 2%. 2%.
What I predicted.
98% say absolutely, categorically no. I was looking for 100 there. I've never had 100 on there.
Well, Keir Starmer's getting 2% of the vote there.
Well, there's somebody...
Keir Starmer does not believe in changing gender young. Right.
Because he doesn't know what a woman is.
Well, that's right. He specifically hasn't...
It's just being completely ridiculous. And actually, you're really turning a very serious thing into just some sort of joke about woke, right?
Scarlett, I think he's making a very valid point here that he didn't say that Keir Starmer was not able to define a woman. He wasn't prepared to do that. Right. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, we'll be having our Royal Roundup. But first, let's get some weather.
Looking ahead to this evening's weather, and the UK is looking fine and clear in the north, with showers in the southwest clearing away. Let's take a look at the details. Showers will have cleared much of the southwest by 7 p.m, but still a few lingering around coastal parts of Cornwall. Further showery rain is expected later in the night. In London, it will be largely cloudy to end the day, but it should stay largely dry. South coastal parts will see some showers overnight. Any lingering showers across South Wales will clear away this evening, so it's going to be a dry night but blustery at times. It's a similar picture across the West Midlands. It will be cloudy through the evening, but skies will clear overnight. Temperatures will drop a little, but it will stay a frost-free night. The winds are going to continue to feed in from the North Sea overnight, and it will remain quite cool around coastal parts of the northeast with some clear spells. The far northeast of Scotland will remain cloudy and murky this evening. Elsewhere, there'll be largely clear skies, leading to a touch of frost in the most prone spots overnight. There will also be largely clear skies for Northern Ireland as we end the day and go through the night. The odd pocket of mist and fog is possible. Whilst it will be a fine night, increasingly clear for many, we will notice the odd showery rain in the far south, and that is how the weather is shaping up overnight and into tomorrow morning.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me. Noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel, and we're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, but to the point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I am Nana Akua. Right, it's time for our Royal Roundup. Buckingham Palace have released 4 photos to mark Prince Louis's 4th birthday today, and the pictures have been taken by his mother, the Duchess of Cambridge, and they show him playing barefoot in the Norfolk sand dunes. Norfolk's such a nice place. Let's have a chat with Editor-in-Chief of Majesty magazine, Ingrid Seward. Ingrid, thank you so much for joining us. So we've got lovely pictures of 4-year-old Prince Louis.
Yes, and the pictures are taken by the Duchess herself, and what a good idea, what a good way of keeping your children's lives private, is to take the photographs yourself. And also, of course, you're going to not have all that sort of embarrassment that kids sometimes have when they're having their photos taken. So it is possible to be royal and have a private life. You've just got to be clever about it. And I think these pictures of Louis are amazing. I think he's got a bit of a look of Michael Middleton about him. I don't know what you think.
Well, he looks cute. He looks very big.
Said he looked a bit like William at that age, but I don't think he does. He's much darker. He's got his lovely dark Middleton eyes, and he's just a gorgeous little boy. And he's had a very private life so far.
Well, and so, as we know, you can keep yourself in secret, like Prince Harry when he flew in for the Invictus Games, and Meghan, and we didn't even know they'd done that. But let's move on to Prince Harry. What's happening there?
Well, there's been quite a stir about Prince Harry this week because he flew in to the UK on his way to The Hague for the Invictus Games, and he dropped in on his grandmother, the Queen, to have tea at Windsor Castle. Not exactly a drop-in. But, the Queen is very formal, and tea is a formal meal, so she invited Harry and Meghan to tea. And apparently, according to Harry, when he later gave an interview to NBC, of course, because he has a very private life, he said that his grandmother, he felt he was just checking on his grandmother to see that she had the right protection around her, and that she had the right people around her. Well, now, 20 years ago, you would have said Harry was definitely on the wacky-backy. I mean, to be so paranoid about something. But I mean, I'm absolutely certain that Harry knows what he's talking about, but it was a very bizarre thing to say. And I think it's got him a lot of bad press. People just find it extraordinary that he should say something like that when, the Queen is possibly the best guarded woman in the world.
Well, also she's got her son, Prince Charles, and she's also got William and Kate, who are incredible ambassadors, and Camilla, who have all been incredible and have been by her side throughout. Listen, Ingrid, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us. That's Ingrid Seward. She's the Editor-in-Chief of Majesty magazine. You're watching me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. More to come after 5 o'clock. Online, on TV and on digital radio. This is GB News. Right, so for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of those big topics that are hitting the headlines right now. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 1 minute past 5. I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. President Zelensky has spoken with Boris Johnson about Ukraine's need for what he's calling a new phase of military aid, which includes the provision of heavy weapons. That's as Russia resumed its attack on the last Ukrainian defenders holed up in a giant steel plant in Mariupol. Footage from the Ukrainian nationalist Azov battalion appears to show women and children under siege. Ukrainian authorities say more than 1,000 civilians are there with the troops. Evacuations were expected to start at midday from the city, but an aide to Mariupol's mayor says this did not take place. Alice Jefferson from disaster relief charity Shelterbox says humanitarian corridors are vitally important.
We understand now is that people are continually trapped in some of the sort of hardest, most violent areas, and there's few and far between options for them to either receive vital support or indeed sort of escape and get out through safe means. Humanitarian corridors in conflict are vitally important, and I think for us, what we really want to see is predictable, assured, safe passage for civilians.
A Conservative MP is calling for a police probe into footage which appears to show Sir Keir Starmer drinking beer with colleagues in April last year when indoor mixing was banned. The Labour leader was cleared of breaching lockdown rules by Durham police in February. However, Richard Holden believes this should be reviewed in the wake of Boris Johnson's fixed penalty notice. A man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a body was found in a hospital car park. The body of a 56-year-old man was discovered inside a car outside the Good Hope Hospital near Birmingham on Friday. West Midlands Police confirmed that a 43-year-old has been arrested. The car has been removed for forensic examination. UK supermarkets have placed limits on how much cooking oil people can buy due to supply chain problems caused by the war in Ukraine. Tesco is limiting each customer to a maximum of 3 bottles, whilst Iceland is rationing sunflower oil to 1 bottle per person. Most of the UK's sunflower oil does come from Ukraine. The British Retail Consortium says that the move is a temporary measure. The price of oils and fats is almost 25% more expensive than it was a year ago. Polls are predicting incumbent President Emmanuel Macron could reach over half of the vote cast in France's election tomorrow. Despite that, President Macron has admitted it feels like a failure that his rival Marine Le Pen is set to reach a higher turnout than she did in 2017. French journalist Laura Haim told GBNews many voters are disillusioned by political parties in the country.
The far right and the Le Pen party is really high at this moment, close to 50%. So no matter what, there's a real division in the French society like never before.
Scotland's Minister for Europe says changing the Northern Ireland Protocol is unthinkable. Neil Gray has written to the Foreign Secretary calling for urgent talks on reports that ministers are planning legislation to scrap the post-Brexit trading agreement with the European Union. Yesterday, when the Prime Minister was asked whether the UK would suspend aspects of the protocol, he said he couldn't rule out taking further steps. Japan's Coast Guard is searching for a tour boat that went missing with 26 people on board, including children. The boat reported it was sinking off the northern island of Hokkaido and has not been seen since. Japanese media reports that Coast Guards have dispatched 5 patrol boats and 2 aircraft to take part in the search. And the Earl and Countess of Wessex have continued on to the second leg of their 7-day tour of the Caribbean. They received their second red carpet and a Guard of Honour welcome after landing in St Vincent and the Grenadines, as scouts, Girl Guides and cadets waved the national flag. The couple received a warm welcome despite a previous warning from Antigua to avoid what they said phony sanctimony over slavery. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's get back to Nana Akua.
Good afternoon. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics that are hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. Mine, theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's comedian Leo Kearse, also former Labour advisor Scarlett Maguire. Still to come. In a few moments' time, it's my time for difficult conversations, and today I'm talking about baby loss after the football legend Cristiano Ronaldo revealed he and his partner Georgina Rodriguez lost their newborn baby son. I'll be speaking to Ross Coniam, who tragically lost his daughter Nora in 2018 after she was born not breathing. He's since gone on to support others going through the harrowing experience of losing a child with his charity 9 for Nora. In the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Wimbledon right to ban Russian and Belarusian players? Organisers of the international tennis most famous championship announced this week that players must just not from Russia and Belarus are not allowed to be playing. They'll be barred from the tournament. And it means that the men's world number 2, Dani Medvedev, and the women's fourth, I can't even say these names, seed Anya, I hope I've said that right, Sabalenka, won't be able to compete. So is this right, considering the invasion of Ukraine, or should sport be put above politics and ultimately above war? You can send us your thoughts, email gbviews@gbnews.uk, or why not tweet me at GBNews. Right. Okay, so let's start this hour with a very difficult conversation. And, I mean, we all saw the story of Manchester United footballer Cristiano Ronaldo. He was given compassionate leave for the club's game against Liverpool this week after he and his partner Georgina Rodriguez announced the death of their infant son in childbirth. Now, the pair were expecting twins, and whilst their newborn daughter is healthy, the tragedy of their son is something that many expecting parents go through every day. Ross Coniam went through a similar experience, losing his first daughter in 2018. He's since gone on to found a charity, 9 for Nora, which provides support to parents who have lost kids. He's also brought together men who have been through the same experience to talk about their struggles. And I'm pleased to say that Ross joins me in the studio. So, Ross, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about this. So, talk to us about what happened that day.
Yeah, so we planned Nora's pregnancy as our first child. Normal pregnancy, went into the hospital as we were over 2 weeks late. Everything seemed to be normal, even through the labour, everything was okay. But we noticed something wasn't right when she was delivered, and she was rushed off to a separate table next to us, and we knew straight away there was something that wasn't right. The doctors did resuscitate her, so she was able to breathe on her own, but sadly, because of the time delay from birth, there was no brain activity. So we had to make a decision a few hours later to take her off the machine and let her pass away peacefully.
That's the most devastating thing that any parent can go through. And I don't even know how you come back from that, if I'm honest. Were there any signs whilst your wife was, giving birth that something was actually wrong?
No, in our case, absolutely not. Not until afterwards we looked back and we realised there was only one heartbeat being recognised twice. Which was missed in the last sort of stages of the labour. But no, there was no, until she was physically delivered, we didn't know anything, that there was a problem at all. So obviously you're just in shock and horror, don't know what to do. And it took 18 minutes for them to resuscitate her. So we knew through previous experiences with my nephew who passed away, when he passed away when he was 10, but he had breathing difficulties when he was born. We just knew that was too long a time, and we just really had to pray and hope that there could be something done, but sadly, that time was too precious. That 18 minutes was too long, and they couldn't do anything about it.
And I can imagine that moment, that time must literally stand still.
Yeah, that 18 minutes seemed like eternity, and like we're 5 feet away watching these doctors, like 10, 12 people in there trying to help, just helpless, and you can't do anything. All I could do was try and support my wife and say things would be okay, not knowing what was going to be at that time. We didn't know that she was going to be what was going to happen. We just hoped that something she'd be helped and be with us now.
And in your mind, how do you then sort of move forward and try and move past that? Because
it took a long time. It took a few months for me to even go outside, really. I didn't want to go out, do anything. You don't want to see people. You don't know who to talk to. Who do you go to? Because we've not been through this. I didn't really know anyone that's lost a child before. And if I did, we haven't really spoken in depth about it. So yes, me and my wife are very good together, and we were strong together. We could talk to each other, but you're both going through it, and your wife's also going through. Knowing my wife's going through the healing process of the birth as well. So it's every day is just, you've got to take each day as it comes, and eventually I managed to get myself out of the house, and I think it was Naomi actually texted my friend and said, look, can you come and get him, just get him out of the house, because I hadn't spoken to anyone about it. Family were brilliant, obviously, which they would be, but again, none of my family had been through a baby loss, so they can't really, you can talk about your feelings, but not exactly, they don't know how you feel.
And it must be very difficult as well, because people are expecting to see you with a child because they've seen that you've gone through it, and then you've got to explain or say something. How did you manage to...
It was very strange. So we it sounds, but looking back, I'm not sure it's the right way to do it, but there is no right way. We actually just sent a message to all of our closest friends to tell them what had happened, because there was no way I was going to call up people and do it over the phone. So we sent a message to our close friends, and then obviously it got spread around between them, and you get cards and well wishes, but yeah, that's all you can do really. You can't. What else do you do unless you know someone you can turn to that's been through it, which we didn't at the time. We just had to keep ourselves to ourselves and do what we could, and yeah, we let people know that we could let know, and then yeah, it just takes time to process it through your mind.
So, but to help yourself get over this, I know that you set up a charity to help others going through.
Yeah, so it was really for my own benefit to give me something to do to keep my mind occupied and keep fit and do some exercise. I did something previously in 2015 when my nephew Kieran passed away. I did 5 challenges to raise money for a hospice called Keach Hospice where he passed away.
Yeah.
So I wanted to raise money for them, and it really, as the months went on after Nora's death, we obviously learnt of SANS, the charity, and there's one called For Lewis that gave us a memory box. So I just wanted to try and give something back to them and raise some money, and more importantly, raise awareness of baby loss, because, again, as the months went on, I met more and more people that had lost.
Yeah.
And I just thought if I can do something to give back and to keep myself physically active, my mind active, because you don't want to lock yourself away and do nothing, as I could have easily done. So the campaign was me to do 9 challenges in 2019, from the London Marathon to London's Brighton Bike Ride. There was 9 different ones, and some guys joined me and helped. Some I did on my own. And yeah, we just tried to raise money as we went along, and obviously just talk to people during these challenges. London Marathon was brilliant because you could talk to people, and I didn't run it all. I walked some, and I was talking to people, and they were asking what it was for because it was on my shirt. So yeah, it was just spreading that awareness. That was the main idea from the start.
So talk to me about your experience with Jake Humphries, because I know that he got involved, didn't he?
That was very surreal. So I went to watch Watford play Wolves in the FA Cup semi-final in 2019, and Jake was working for BT Sport, and I just happened to be sitting a few rows in front of their studio.
Now Jake Humphries, he's a presenter.
He's a sports presenter on BT Sport, yeah. And he was working on that day on the game, and it was half time. He said he just saw the back of my hoodie with my website, went onto it and promoted it, basically put it on Twitter. And our fundraising went from 3,000 to nearly 30,000 overnight.
Amazing.
More to that, it was the messages that I was getting on the GoFundMe page, because it was a lot of men saying, I didn't know you could do, I didn't know what to do, and I lost, and well done for opening up. And it makes you just build your confidence up. And of course, the money was unbelievable, because that's gone on to help hundreds and hundreds of families through their bereavement after us. And yeah, and Jake's been great, and he'll follow us and help us now and try and promote it more. And he just gave us that platform on social media to be able to promote's the wrong word, but expose baby loss, because it's so common.
And especially as a man having to deal with it, because there's often a lot of support for women going through this, and it can never really be enough for something like this. I mean, it's every parent's worst nightmare.
Yes, I mean, any age to lose a child is unthinkable, and let's say we as a family we've lost 2 now, in a 10-year-old and Nora, and yeah, as a man, I didn't really know where to turn.
Yeah.
I mean, women are obviously a lot better at talking to each other now. They'll find each other somehow, and men just don't seem to do that. I mean, I didn't want to speak to anyone for 3 to 6 months, really. But then I realised that you need to, because you need to have that outlet, and I'm so glad now that I've found a network of dads and men that I can share my experience with, and they can share theirs with, and hopefully it will let people realise that they can do that as well.
I mean, is this one of those harrowing experiences that must literally replay in your mind all the time? How do you get over that replay in your mind? It's just a form of PTSD, isn't it?
Yeah,
really,
so I had therapy.
Going back through.
Yeah, so I had therapy for that, especially for the moments that Nora was born and delivered, because that I couldn't get. Still now I can think about it, but I can deal with it now because I've learned how to kind of deal with it. Like your pain doesn't stop. Like we say, the pain is this big, your world grows around it. So our world has got bigger. As you mentioned, we've now got our rainbow boy Ernie. He's 2.5 now.
Look at him, he's lovely.
And yeah, so that's actually at Fort Lewis at the charity. We went to see them. That's their angel wall with all the angels' names on. So and we're so fortunate to have Ernie. Like, there's so many parents out there that have lost and haven't had children and still trying, and that's harrowing itself. Just thinking of those people, and when you hear other people's stories, it makes no story is the same. No loss is the same, but the pain's the same.
But going through it again, so you've had one, that's happened. To then actually go through it, you must have been absolutely beside yourself for the delivery for the second child.
Yeah, so it was every day was because we had a perfect pregnancy with Nora. We didn't know any problems. So when we went with Ernie, we're going for the 7-week scan, 12-week scan. We'd have an extra scan just to make sure, because we still don't have a reason for Nora's loss particularly. So yeah, you're panicking every time you're going for a scan. You're waiting for that heartbeat. You're waiting for the midwife to say, "Yep, everything's fine," and it was. And we planned to have a cesarean section with Ernie because the thought of going through another labour. Just we couldn't. Those, like to say, the images of losing Nora would have been too much to handle, I think. So, and the C-section was brilliant. The hospital were brilliant. The surgeon was brilliant. They knew what had happened. And it was still a lovely experience with Ernie. But yeah, it was very, very difficult to go through that first pregnancy afterwards.
So how old is Ernie now?
Ernie's 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
Like the terrible twos. Is he a terrible two?
He has his moments. No, he's very lovely. And we're actually expecting.
Another one?
Yes, so we are going to have a little sister for him very, very soon.
So how soon?
11 days' time.
11 days' time, oh my goodness.
So we have a C-section booked in for a little one.
Yeah.
But again, it's been very different experience, and every scan you're still going to it worrying. And
of course you would be.
But yeah, everything seems to be going okay, so we're all
Good.
all
Wish
planned,
you all the best for that. And if people want to get in touch, is the charity still going?
So I've got the 9fornora.co.uk website. We've got a Dads and Lads Network group now, which we meet up and have WhatsApp groups to chat, and there's over 50 men in that. So yeah, we're always open just to go on the website, and there's a contact page, and we welcome as many men as possible to talk to us.
Well, Ross, listen, keep doing the good work and good luck with your next child. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Lovely to see you again and lovely to talk to you. That's Ross Coniam. He's set up a charity called 9 for Nora. And, I mean, what an incredible story. Well, listen, coming up is the Great British Debate. And this hour I'm asking, is Wimbledon right to ban Russian and Belarusian players? With the invasion of Ukraine and still raging on, organisers of the grass court tennis championships made the decision that athletes from the nation would not be allowed to compete. There's been criticism of the decision from those who argued that sport should be above geopolitics, but with reports of the atrocities coming out of Ukraine on a regular basis, I want to ask, is Wimbledon right to ban Russian and Belarusian players? First, let's get some weather.
Looking ahead to this evening's weather, and the UK is looking fine and clear in the north, with showers in the southwest clearing away. Let's take a look at the details. Showers will have cleared much of the southwest by 7 p.m, but still a few lingering around coastal parts of Cornwall. Further showery rain is expected later in the night. In London, it will be largely cloudy to end the day, but it should stay largely dry. South coastal parts will see some showers overnight. Any lingering showers across South Wales will clear away this evening, so it's going to be a dry night but blustery at times. It's a similar picture across the West Midlands. It'll be cloudy through the evening, but skies will clear overnight. Temperatures will drop a little, but it will stay a frost-free night. The winds are going to continue to feed in from the North Sea overnight, and it'll remain quite cool around coastal parts of the northeast with some clear spells. The far northeast of Scotland will remain cloudy and murky this evening. Elsewhere, there'll be largely clear skies, leading to a touch of frost in the most prone spots overnight. There will also be largely clear skies for Northern Ireland as we end the day and go through the night. The odd pocket of mist and fog is possible. Whilst it will be a fine night, increasingly clear for many, we will notice the odd showery rain in the far south, and that is how the weather is shaping up overnight and into tomorrow morning.
Join us every Sunday at 10 a.m. for The Political Correction.
We're here to put you, the people, back in charge. Our debate is about all areas of the United Kingdom.
It's about what's really going on in our country.
It's about you. So please get in touch and tell us what you think.
Don't miss it. It's The Political Correction every Sunday at 10 a.m. on GBNews.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
So it's coming up to 24 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and it's now time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is Wimbledon right to ban Russian and Belarusian players? Organisers of the international tennis competition announced this week that athletes from Russia and Belarus won't be allowed to compete in the tournament. So that means that some of the top sports players won't be taking part, most notable the men's world number one, Dani Medvedev, and the women's fourth seed, Anya Sabalenka. Now, the move has attracted criticism from those who say that sports should be held above geopolitics and ultimately war, but with details obviously emerging of the atrocities in Ukraine and the conflict that is still raging on, I'm asking, is Wimbledon right to ban those players? Right, so I'm joined in the studio by the sports broadcaster and writer Aidan McGee. Aidan, right, well, really good to see you. Smell fabulous, by the way.
Thanks very much. The viewers can't appreciate that, isn't it?
No, they can't, or the listeners either, sadly, but never mind, they can hear. Well, what do you think about this? I mean, is this, are people right to criticise it by saying that it shouldn't be involved in geopolitics?
Yeah, generally speaking, I mean, Novak Djokovic spoke during the Serbian Open in the week and just said, look, it's never good when sport goes into politics. And yes, we've seen with the Premier League, various other things, Saudi Arabia takeover of Newcastle, etc., various examples over the last 2 or 3 years where he's absolutely right, it doesn't work. Where Russia's concerned, I think you have to affect Russia somehow because their tentacles are all over sport in an investment sense. They do it to make the country look good. It's a version of what we might call sport washing on a grander scale almost. But when it comes to... I saw this problem further down the line 2 months ago because it never really came to a head up to now because Russia isn't actually that great at sport. We never had a situation where we're talking about an elite athlete being excluded from a particular event. When we talk about Nikita Mazepin in the F1, yeah, OK, he was on the grid, but he wasn't going to trouble the podium. His father had links to Putin, so that was a no-brainer. You removed him from the situation. I would like to have known what would happen with a Premier League footballer had there been any Russian players in the Premier League. Would they have said, right, OK, the whole team's out, we can't do that, obviously. Would they have excluded the player? I think that would have been very, very difficult to do. I think sometimes it has to come down. On this occasion, you can't do everything case by case, but I think it might be a good idea, if it's an individual sport, I think some clemency should be allowed. This is the problem with Daniil Medvedev. He's an elite performer. He's won the US Open. He should have won the Australian Open. He lost to Nadal. He was 2 sets up. He's got a good chance of winning Wimbledon. He's number 2 in the world. He'll probably go to number 1 later this year. There's also some quite prominent protagonists in the women's side of the draw as well. So that's the issue. I think maybe if it's individual, we should give them a bit of grace. If it's a team sport, I mean, even if people say to me, yeah, what about the Olympics? You know, you've got individuals running for the 100 metres. Again, not that simple because they contribute, they run under a flag and they go into a medals table. And so they're competing against other countries. When Daniel Medvedev wins Wimbledon, if he does win Wimbledon, it doesn't look like he will now because he's out of it, but if he does, do I think of that as a Russian triumph? No, I don't. I think of it as an individual sport. I think of it as Daniel Medvedev's triumph. It's not the same as if Russia are playing in the World Cup in football or rugby or boxing. Well, boxing's different because they're an individual sport. Again, I think there should be some leniency given.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Djokovic. I mean, I don't think anyone particularly talking about him after his whole thing with the vaccine.
No, true. But Medvedev's another issue as well because no one's going to miss Medvedev. He's not a very popular person.
No,
it helps to have some friends sometimes.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, whether they're individuals or whether they are a team, they are representatives or ambassadors for that country in whatever form. And at the moment, anything that we're trying to show Russia and Belarus that this isn't acceptable and we cannot celebrate these players. Because what if you have a situation where you've got a Russian player who may be playing against somebody who's a Ukrainian?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, well, yeah, but there may not be a problem between the two individuals.
Well, I think there would be, actually, in terms of the war. I mean, they wouldn't be comfortable with that. And, and other players might refuse to actually play against them.
Well, it was suggested this week that... I mean, I don't really see this as a hybrid theory, really, but it was suggested that if the individuals from Russia taking part in Wimbledon on the male and female side of the draws or sections, if they came out and condemned the war, maybe they'd be allowed in. But it's just forcing someone into a position, isn't it? I mean,
look, well, not really. I mean, look, if you want to play and represent Russia whilst they're doing these awful, barbaric things in Ukraine, I'm afraid we can't celebrate you. I think a lot of people watching wouldn't watch, and I think a lot of advertisers or sponsors might even look on that and think, well, I don't want to put any money behind this.
But then you could look at what happened with the Olympics in the last 4 years, maybe representing a neutral flag. That's possibly an alternative. I just don't think it's fair on someone like Daniel Medvedev, who's had nothing to do with this. And we don't know his views on the war. He's not been asked about it as far as I know. There hasn't been much tennis since in the last 2 months or so. But if he's against the war, even if he speaks out against, if he doesn't speak out against, I don't really see why he should be punished as an individual. It's different if it's a team sport because you are representing Russia. He has to represent Russia in those events whether he likes it or not. He has to have RUS or GBR or USA next to his name whether he likes it or not. We've had instances in the 80s where players were actually representing the US because they're actually from Eastern Europe. Martina Navratilova we're talking about, even Lender we're talking about. They moved out of, or had their names taken out of Eastern Europe because of prohibitive tax purposes, and they played under the USA. So it has been done before, where players have come out of one flag and into another. And again, you come back to the individuals. I don't really see what these individuals have done to deserve. I know what you're saying. You could say the same of a team. And maybe the solution is that you have a blanket ban and just accept that there are going to be winners and losers in the whole debacle.
Well, here, some BMK or whoever, they've not put their name there, but this says Saudi Arabia buys Newcastle. You cannot have one rule for one, etc., etc. Islam, its political ideology, has no place in certain sports and so on and so on. Regardless, that's what people are saying.
It's a precedent, Nana, as well, because how far do we go around the world, or how far many sports do we delve into where the organisers say, oh, we don't like his politics, or we don't like who he represents, so he's out? I mean, how far does it go? We're already living in an era of cancel culture, and I can see that situation only
But this isn't cancel... OK, so there's a different...
cancel culture.
No, I don't believe this is cancel culture. What this is trying to send a message to the people of Russia about what's going on, because there's a huge propaganda war. This is like an information war, right? So in order to try and create some sort of narrative so that the Russians can understand the impact this is having on the rest of the world, it might be politicised, but...
I don't think it affects Russia. He doesn't... Putin wouldn't care. He cares about the...
You think I'm sure he'd use that.
I think he cares about the F1 being moved because that was a flagship event that celebrated Russia, and we talked about sport washing earlier on. That's a branch of that. Daniel Medvedev funds himself. He's funded by his own success. He doesn't receive any money from the Russian
but he's
government.
still a Russian player, and he's representing, in a sense, Russia. I mean, look, there is the notion that if he's so-called working and funding himself, that he should come out and oppose and say something, tell the Russian people that, listen, this is what's going on, and da-da-da-da, and do something, and maybe he should be considered.
So do you agree, then, in that case, that's what was suggested this week, if the players come out and say we're against the war in Russia, they should be allowed in?
Well, I would allow them in for the reason that they have said that, but I would still be very dubious uncomfortable with it. But because they've actually decided that this is unacceptable, and actually, if they said, look, I don't want to be part of Russia, I'm not going to be playing as part of the Russian flag. I'd like to be playing under an independent, neutral flag, and I also denounced the whole war thing. Then I think I would be able to see some sort of slight way.
Again, the IOC had a lot of criticism when they did that. They took the Russian Olympic competitors out of the Russian flag to try and punish them, put them under a neutral flag. Everyone just said, well, hang on a minute, this is no different. Everyone sees them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I would consider.
It's very tricky.
I consider it, but I still don't. I wouldn't feel comfortable, and I wouldn't really be happy watching a Russian player, you know, who's enjoying the spoils of success whilst that's going on. But interesting.
It is very interesting. It's very tricky. I don't have the answers. I'm sorry. I mean, I could be swayed one way or the other. I'm just glad I'm not making a decision, quite frankly.
Yeah, me too. Aidan, thank you so much for joining us. That's Aidan McGee. He's a sports broadcaster and a writer. So on today's show, I've been asking, is Wimbledon right to ban Russian and Belarusian players? Let's see what you've been saying. Denise says they are sports people and should not be linked to politics. Most people want a happy, free life, enjoying watching people with such skills. Yes, I'm sure the people of Ukraine would say that they probably like that too, but unfortunately, their country has been bombed by the Russians. Vince says no. Were USA sports players banned when America invaded Iraq or Libya? No, of course not. They were not responsible for their government's actions. Joe says yes, they should. We live in a globalised society. Actions always have consequences, even when it comes to the government. JJ says yes, they are tennis. Shouldn't be treated any differently from any other sport. Do you think so? Well, anyway, I think on this occasion, I'm sorry, but I don't think I could even bear to watch those players. But you're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online, on digital radio. What do you think? Get in touch. Coming up, we will continue with this debate, and I'm asking, is Wimbledon right to ban Russian and Belarusian players? You will hear the thoughts of my panel, comedian Leo Kurth, and also former Labour advisor Scarlett Maguire. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thanks, Nana. It's 32 minutes past 5. I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. President Zelensky has spoken with Boris Johnson about Ukraine's need for a new phase of military aid, which includes the provision of heavy weapons. It comes as Russia resumed its attack on the last Ukrainian defenders holed up in a giant steelworks in Mariupol, hitting it with air and ground attacks. Footage from the Ukrainian nationalist Azov battalion appears to show women and children holding out in the underground bunkers of the Azovstal plant. 1,000 civilians are believed to be sheltering there with troops. A man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a body was found in a hospital car park. The body was discovered inside a car outside the Good Hope Hospital near Birmingham on Friday. The car has been removed for forensic examination. A Conservative MP is urging Durham Police to review its decision not to fine Sir Keir Starmer. Now, that's after footage appeared to show him drinking with colleagues in April 2021 when indoor mixing was banned. Sir Keir was cleared of breaching lockdown rules by Durham Police in February, but Richard Holden believes that decision should be reviewed now in the wake of Boris Johnson receiving a fixed penalty notice. Campaigning has ended in the French presidential elections ahead of polls opening tomorrow. Pollsters say the race is very close, with incumbent President Emmanuel Macron expected to reach just over half of the votes cast. And the Earl and Countess of Wessex have continued on to the second leg of their Caribbean tour. They've landed in St Vincent and the Grenadines. The couple received a warm welcome despite a previous warning from Antigua to avoid what they called so-called phony sanctimony over slavery. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now let's get back to Nana in just a moment.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good afternoon. So it's just coming up to 38 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Right, now it's back to our great British debate this hour. And I'm asking, is Wimbledon right to ban Russian and Belarusian players? Of course, there's the invasion in Ukraine still raging on. Organisers of the tennis championships have made the decision that athletes from that nation should not be allowed to compete. And there's been a lot of criticism from those who argue that sport should be above geopolitics. But with reports of atrocities coming out of Ukraine on a regular basis, I want to ask, is Wimbledon right to ban Russian and Belarusian players? Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined today by comedian Leo Kearse and also Labour Scarlet advisor. I can't even, Scarlett Maguire. She's a Labour, former Labour advisor. Right, so what do you think? I'm going to start with you then, Scarlett, as soon as I messed up your intro.
That's fine. I think in general sport is not above politics. I mean, there is absolutely no question that sport is part of politics, that the Olympic Games, who wins, who loses, where it's had. The thing about tennis is it's such an individual game. And whereas, you know, I absolutely support England to win the football, I'm really keen on England in the Olympics, I'm a Federer person when it comes to tennis. And I find it really difficult supporting Andy Murray, who I think is great, against Federer or Nadal. And so I think that nationality matters much less. I'm quite prepared for the Russians to have to say that what's going on in Ukraine is terrible, and then they can play at Wimbledon. But what you feel, I mean, a lot of these Russians probably train in Florida. I mean, I remember Martina Navratilova left Czechoslovakia, as it was then, for the States. I mean, it's a very international game, with actually a lot of them not being very nationalistic.
It's because Federer's better looking than Andy Murray, isn't it? He's a lot nicer.
He's a great player.
I think that's what it is. Well, he is, I'm sorry. But yeah.
Subjective.
Well, I'm not going to be subjective, that's what I think he is. He's a rather handsome chap. But what do you think then, Leo? I mean, should sports be involved in politics in this manner?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we had South African apartheid, then, South African athletes were banned from participating in sporting events. And it all adds to the pressure on the country to bring about political change. Also, I saw in The Guardian, they said it was bad, so that automatically means it's a good idea. And also we've seen athletes using the podium to make political statements. There was a Russian gymnast who had the Z logo, which is basically the Russian swastika.
Terrible.
He displayed that. What a thing to do in the faces of all these Ukrainians who've lost loved ones. I thought, that was disgraceful. So yeah, it's absolutely right. And also, they're probably on steroids anyway.
Well, I mean, look, we can't say this. Well, actually, some
they're
of them...
all on steroids.
No, hang on.
Sue me, Putin.
No, well, be careful, because there might be an ejector seat on there and he may have got involved, or there might be something in that drink. No,
I think you should use it, Nana.
But my question to you is, Scarlett makes a good point that they are individuals. Would you see them as any different, even though they are sort of sporting the Russian flag in a sense?
They are individuals, and I get the point that tennis is an individualistic sport, not a team sport. But still, I mean, it's going to bring pressure. I think it's a small amount for the players to bear, considering the amount that people in Ukraine have lost, and it'll bring pressure on the country, and also hopefully raise awareness within Russia, which obviously just gets a lot of news from Russian state propaganda. Raise awareness of the war and what's happening.
Scarlett, what would you say to that? Because Because in your view, are you saying that actually they should be allowed to play?
I think they should be allowed to play with caveats. I mean, I think...
Like what caveats?
Caveats are big wooden boots.
No, well, that would make it difficult.
This is the problem of being on with a comedian. I think that they have to denounce what Russia's doing in Ukraine. And then that's okay. I mean, because they are individuals. I mean, of course, they shouldn't be allowed to take part. I mean, you shouldn't have Russian teams in anything. And I completely agree about the Russian athlete who was. I mean, and that's why all the Russian athletes got banned from the Paralympics, actually, and quite rightly. And Russia will not be allowed to compete in any international sporting thing. I just wonder whether tennis is different.
But
why?
What you bring up is the idea that they have to denounce Russia. And what if they don't want to denounce Russia? I think trying to force opinions into people's mouths is more dangerous than just banning them out.
So if you think Russia was right to go into Ukraine, then we don't want you playing at Wimbledon.
But then they'll just lie, and that's what we've got in society right now. Everybody lies and pretends that they're woke. And secretly in private isn't. I mean, if you look at social media during an election, you'd think Jeremy Corbyn's going to win. He's got no chance. You know,
that is true. There was that. About the election,
I thought we were talking about tennis players. I mean, I just think.
I'm talking about people misrepresenting their opinions publicly.
I think if you, I absolutely agree about putting pressure. It's not something I feel strongly about, but because we were debating it, I had to think it through, and then I really wondered about it. I absolutely agree with you about that you want to put as much pressure on Russia as possible, which is why if you have an athlete, a tennis player, who is brave enough, as some people in Russia are, to actually denounce Russia, then I think they should be rewarded.
Well, how about as a compromise, they're allowed to play, but they're forced to transition?
Oh, goodness.
I mean,
that's going on a minute. Wait.
Because the steroids
okay, I'm going to stop that bit there. No. Well, let's get back to the actual subject of this, because in all seriousness, okay, so sport and politics. First of all, I think sport and politics, it's fine if they're involved with in each other, as long as there's an outcome. For example, taking the knee, I don't believe that is a good gesture. I think it's pointless. I'd rather see the FIFA do something about racism rather than, putting the emphasis onto the players to force them to make some change. They haven't done anything.
Maybe the World Cup in a country that doesn't have slavery.
Yeah, for example, exactly, the World Cup, it shouldn't be in Qatar because there's a huge slave trade, and I don't think our national broadcasters should be going. Gary Lineker shouldn't be commentating on it. People like that shouldn't be going. I don't think that, But then we could end up in a situation where nobody ever does anything. But when it comes to an actual active war that we can see as a propaganda war, and these players are saying, but it's only just me, it's only me. Well, it's not only you. I would find it intolerable, and also other players actually being forced to play against these players or be disqualified if they don't play because their views might be that they think that this is an actual absolute disgrace they should be playing. I think to alleviate any possibility that other players will step back and not play, I would exclude these players absolutely 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, I just don't feel. I don't feel strongly about it. I mean, I completely understand your point.
So why are you here? Go on, get out.
I feel strongly about almost everything else.
Right. Well, lots of you have been getting in touch. Let's see what Stuart is saying. Stuart says no, they're competing as individuals. It's discrimination to ban players based solely on nationality. Well, it is discrimination, but you can have positive and negative discrimination, and in this case, I think it is positively fine. Sussy says smart move from the organisers. I have a feeling that if they let them play, cancel culture will haunt them. Well, I mean, unfortunately, this war is disgraceful. It needs to stop. So whatever, if anything, if that will help in some minute way, then I'm all for it. Bertie says they're individuals unconnected with the ruling elite. It is the usual virtue-signalling, self-harming behaviour we've come to expect here in the West. Do you think?
That's incorrect. Putin and dictators, they take great interest in their athletes and they fund their athletes because that's one of the ways they can have a proxy war. They can win against the West. That's why Russian athletes take so many steroids.
No, here we go. We're back on that again.
That's what. But actually, you are completely right. Not necessarily
all
the steroids about Sochi. I mean, the Winter Olympics in Sochi was all about Putin. I mean, just like the Berlin Games was about Hitler. I mean, to pretend that sport isn't part of politics, that it isn't part of a dictator's thing, is wrong. And actually, Qatar is about...
Well, I've got some of that here. Well, Grant says, yes, Putin censors everything, so Russians don't know the full extent of what's happening to Ukraine. Banning all Russian sports players will send a strong message that the world is against the atrocities that are going on. Maybe then the decent Russians will rebel against Putin.
What if they played with a live hand grenade?
No, don't be silly. No, that wouldn't be funny. No, that would be, well, that'd be explosive, wouldn't it? Steve says individual players can't be held responsible for Putin's wrongdoing. Why can't they play as a neutral with no flag or nationality shown? Siobhan says, of course it's not right. No one should be punished or discriminated against based on where they're born. They earned the right to be there and shouldn't have their livelihoods affected because of the actions of their government.
But nationality...
I beg to differ.
Nationality is, you're basically punished because of where you're born.
Well, that's what's happening in Ukraine, so, you know. Yeah. Well, anyway, keep your thoughts coming. But let's do a swerve and change the subject and move on to something better. Brexit. This week, the former Conservative Minister, Edwina Currie, claimed an awful lot of the partygate row is about Brexit. The argument is that mainly Remainers calling for the Prime Minister to go and that they can't get over him successfully leading the campaign to leave the EU. So, is partygate really all about Brexit? Scarlett?
No, of course it's not. Partygate is about Boris Johnson lying to the Commons. It's really simple. Boris Johnson making up rules that he told us about night after night after night, told us we had to obey, then he disobeyed, then he went to the Commons and said there were no parties.
No, he said he didn't know whether it was a party or not.
No, but long before. He now doesn't know.
Yeah, but that's because he didn't think it... No, but he said there were no parties because he didn't think it was a party.
No, well then why did he let Allegra Stratton resign?
Well, because she was laughing at the whole thing and that's not great.
Because she knew it was she said it was a party.
Well, she was being silly. Right, OK.
It was a bit of cake and a few glasses of wine after a long working day.
And the press had already commented on his previous thing where he went to school and did pretty much the same thing on that very same day. And nobody argued with it being in the press. It was in the press previously. A lot of people think that this is to do with Brexit. Would you say that there's any connection?
Well, no, I don't think there's any connection at all. And I think if you look at all the polls of people actually are really cross about the way Boris Johnson has behaved. It's all about his behaviour. It's got nothing to do with Brexit. Steve Baker said... the gig is over. Steve Baker was Brexit minister. There is no question about where Steve Baker lies on Brexit.
Well, if Steve Baker says it, it must be true, because the one thing he said one thing, then the next day changed his mind. Leo, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people in the back benches are desperate to shake things up so they can get to the front benches.
Of course.
So, I mean, that's what's going on here. But I think, to do it over this, I mean, it's been dragged out for months because he had, he had a birthday cake, he had some, wine, and I had some being slammed for... he was accused of... evacuating dogs from Afghanistan. It's hardly history's greatest monster, is he? He likes dogs and cake and wine. I mean, this is just a...
So would you say there's a Brexit lynch mob sort of there?
He had to make those rules because we're a nation of crybabies who need the government to make rules because we're scared of a little virus.
Well, it wasn't a little virus. I'm going to stop you there because a lot of people died on that. Scarlett, carry on.
Thousands.
Not very many.
Well, no, maybe not in your family, but people lost people. I wouldn't trivialise it. Scarlett.
Yeah, I mean, the point is that Boris Johnson made the rules and said, but they're not for me. And then he went to Parliament and said, no rules were broken. And then he said, I've been told no rules were broken.
But
that's the whole problem.
We're going through the whole chronology of it. It's so simple.
What he's saying is it's all about cake. And what I'm saying is it's not all about cake. But the one thing it really isn't about is Brexit.
You think not? I think a lot of Brexiteers would like to see the back of Boris Johnson. But anyway, we'll see your thoughts. But now it's time for our quick-fire quiz. Now, that's the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories hitting the headlines right now. So joining me, if you've just tuned in, is former Labour advisor Scarlett Maguire and also comedian Leo Kearse. Right, now they've both got buzzers to press, and when they do that, they can answer the questions. So first of all, Leo, let me hear your buzzer. Lovely. And Scarlett, your buzzer. Lovely. Right, question 1. What has Jacob Rees-Mogg... sorry, I started, so I'll finish. Scarlett, you are now disqualified from answering the question first, because the rule of this is that you must allow me to finish. Right.
To follow rules.
Let me finish the question, please. So what has Jacob Rees-Mogg done to civil servants who are still working from home? Is it A, fired them? Is it B, left them notes saying, sorry, you were out when I visited? Or C, offered to take them on an away day to Alton Towers?
Is it fired them?
Has he fired them?
No, it's left them a note saying, sorry, you were out.
Well, unfortunately, neither of you get the point because, unfortunately, Scarlett, you pressed the buzzer before I'd finished the question. But it is, in fact, B, let them say, well, OK, look, let them...
You left them notes, so he went round to their houses?
Yeah, well, look,
he went round to their desks.
You can do it on email, you can do it on loads of ways. He did it on the desk. The Brexit Minister for Opportunities
and they weren't at their
has been
desks,
vocal
so he left
about his opposition
to...
to... Scarlett, I'm talking. To civil servants working from home. But he's taken it to another level, going to people in his department who were working from home desks and leaving notes which read, sorry, you were out when I visited. I look forward to seeing you in the office very soon. Right, so do you think working from home is a good or bad thing? Do you think this time they came back?
I think it's good. I mean, I think people in the UK, our productivity lags other G7 nations, and it's because we've got this focus on presenteeism. When I had a proper job, I had to turn up in a suit and be there early and go home late. And it's nonsense. When you're self-employed, you don't do you get the work done. However that happens, it doesn't matter.
All right, let's move on to question 2. You get the work done, apparently. Right, question 2.
This one.
South African woman broke her own Guinness World Record by swimming how many feet under iced over water? Nearest guess wins. Leo.
Go
on, come on, hurry up. 5,
100.
4. Scarlett.
250.
250 what?
Feet.
Right, just checking. Well done, Scarlett. It's actually 295 feet. You're absolutely right. Amber Fillory swam the distance under 3-inch thick ice. She beat her initial record of 229 feet. Mad woman. So would you swim in ice water, yes or no, Scarlett?
Never.
What about you, Leo?
Well, if I had to get back to the shore.
You'd have to crack the ice to get out. Right, question 3. Who has a pub landlord banned from applying for a job at his establishment? Is it people who, A, have BO, B, play FIFA, or C, have bad breath? Or D, all of the above?
Is it D, all of the above?
Scarlett, what's your answer?
B.
Play FIFA. Right, let me see. The answer is it's D, all of the above. Very good. Lord
done.
Craig Harker advertised for chefs, kitchen porters and front-of-house staff at his George pub and grill chain, which is based in Teesside. But people with bad teeth who have body odour or spend all of their time playing FIFA are banned from applying. So do you think it's a fair criteria for an applicant, Leo?
Absolutely. For any job, you shouldn't have BO. Have I got BO? I don't have BO.
He's fired. Get rid of him. Scarlett, what do you think?
I think it's awful when I have to deal with people with BO. I'm absolutely with you.
But they don't know, because apparently...
Well, then I think you have to tell them. I think that as a boss, you have to actually make it quite plain. That
they might say that what you've done has offended me and what you've done... and then there'll be some sort of tribunal against you making
I have a syndrome that makes me have BO.
Maybe you've got the thing that Prince Andrew has where he can't sweat.
Doesn't that mean he can't have BO?
No,
I have no idea about Prince Andrew.
He does worse
maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Yeah, so so if you were a boss, you would actually tell them?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'd say they had to get a haircut, hippie. That's something else I'd say.
That would probably go down pretty badly, Leo, unfortunately for you. You'll end up being fired from your own whatever it is.
I've got a haircut.
Have you?
Yeah, look, my hair's short.
You've had a hair transplant, I know.
Yeah, I've got a hair transplant.
Does it get any thicker than that, or will you still be able to see through it?
You know what, Nana? It's real. You can try pulling it out.
Well, I've got stuff under mine.
All right, well...
I'll show you mine if you should actually know. We're going in the wrong direction now. Right. So on today's show, we've been asking, should children be offered hormone therapy to change gender? And according to our Twitter poll, well, it's gone up 1%. 3% of you say yes, and 97% of you say no. Well, I've got to say it's been fun. I've got to say thank you so much to my amazing panel, comedian Leo Kearse. Comedian Leo, when are you back?
On this show?
No, just back.
Back? Tomorrow I'm on Free Speech Nation.
Are you Scarlett, are you back next week with us?
Yes, I think I am back next week.
Lovely. Well, listen, thank you so much for your company. It's been a pleasure. And, of course, thank you to you.
What about the poll from Wimbledon?
Oh, yeah, the poll.
I'm
We
really
didn't do one.
interested in that one.
Well, I've got to say thank you very much to my panel. Just going on about some poll from Wimbledon. No, I'd love to know what you think as well. Keep your thoughts coming, though. I've got to say thank you so much to Scarlett Maguire. She's former Labour advisor. Scarlett Maguire, thank you so much. And also comedian Leo Kearse. And a big thank you to you at home for your company. You can catch up with us on the GB News app, where you can download it and see this show back again if you like. Or why not listen to us on DAB Radio? Right, I'll see you tomorrow at 4. I'll leave you with the weather forecast. Have an absolutely fabulous
Join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain every Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m. A news hour that comes with a trigger warning. Scorching hot opinion with prominent guests saying the unsayable and a little bit of weekend fun thrown in. Unlike other broadcasters, I won't be forgetting what the B in our name stands for. So howie in for Real Britain Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m.